What is up, guys? What is up? Feeling good today. It's Friday the 19th of July. And I'm just here doing my interactive office hours, spiritual warfare part 2. Going to be cranking through the rest of the sermon, hopefully. Hopefully I can go for a little bit today. And I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys are having a great Friday, that you've had a good weekend. I'm doing the music again, but I adjust the settings a little bit. I pushed the mic a little further away because I felt like I was too close to it before, but I turned up the settings. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pause the music real quick, and I'm just going to try to listen to what's going on and try to sort out the sound settings, make sure they're in a good spot. So just bear with me while I get that figured out. Thanks. And I'm just going to try to listen to what's going on and try to sort out the sound settings, make sure they're in a good spot. So just bear with me while I get that figured out. Thanks. And I'm just going to try to listen to what's going on. I feel like that's pretty good. I feel like you guys could get a little more of the music. So I'm going to turn that up just a tad. Just a touch. I've just got Monster Cat, and I've got it going on ambient. That's what I got going on. If it gets a little too loud, I'll adjust. But I'm enjoying that. Got everything rolling. It's a Friday. I said I'm going to try to get a consistent schedule now. So I'm going to try to stream on Fridays, Saturdays from 9 to noon. And then I'm also going to try to stream Mondays and Wednesdays from 6 to 8 p.m. So those are my goals. We'll see how it works out. But I figured if I get some consistent times out there, then that might help people out and help them catch me, and so they can interact with me live. As always, I'm just doing my sermon prep here, listening to some music, chilling. Please feel free to come in, interact with me, chat, all those types of things. And again, I'm going to check the sound one more time. I apologize for just sorting this out, but I'm trying to go a decent stream length today, 2.5 hours or so, and I want to make sure the settings are locked. One more try. Some music, chilling. Please feel free to come in, interact with me, chat, all those types of things. And again, I'm going to check the sound one more time. I apologize for just sorting this out, but I'm trying to go a decent... Yeah, I like that. I like that. That's what we're going with. Let me know in chat if it's no good. And yeah, let's jump right into this. So, Spiritual Warfare Part 2. I've been using Mike Heiser as my reference point for all of this stuff on spiritual warfare. So, I've been going through his book on the Unseen Realm. Check this out. Unseen Realm by Mike Heiser. Right here. It's a great book. It's got a lot of good information. So I've been doing this one. And then I've also been doing Supernatural, which was also written by Mike Heiser. It's a little shorter summary of the same topic. He doesn't go into as intellectual depth on it, but it's still got a lot of good information. So I've been utilizing these to try and get some good ideas, both of those books. And also, just in my free time, I haven't done anything on the sermon for this, but Reversing Herman is a book that I purchased of his that had come out recently. Now, this one's a little more academic and a little less biblically oriented, which makes it maybe not the best candidate for me to include information in my sermon about, but it's still got good background information, especially for what I'm going to be preaching this Sunday. If we go to my layout, I've got several verses, and we spend a lot of time in Genesis. And you can see my focus is going to be Genesis 11. Now that's Babel. But I'm talking about the fall from 3 different realms this Sunday. First, I'm going to talk about the fall that we all know about, Genesis 3. And I'm going to talk about Satan, his relationship to humanity, all that type of stuff. Then I'm going to talk about fallen unity. This is mankind and the spiritual realm seeking to unify the two realms in their own way. And the spirits primarily propagate this by seeking to come to earth and interact with human beings in such a way as to create a different offspring. That happens in Genesis 6, and it's a fall on unity. It doesn't follow God's plan for uniting the two realms. So that's going to be a fall that I'm going to talk about there, and then I'm going to talk about fall and dominion, which is Babel, which is where we seek to follow God's mandate to go forth, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth. We seek to fulfill that mandate, but we seek to do it in our way rather than in God's way. And there are some consequences to that in Genesis 11. So that's where we're going. We're going to go through those things. My driving question, if the spiritual realm and physical realm are linked, how does the fall affect each? That's where I'm driving. So I need to go around in this direction. So I'm just going to review my notes since it's been a few days since I checked all this out. So I have some notes here about the fall. I'm definitely going into that. Free will and compatibilism, means to an end. I'm not even going to touch that. I don't think it's necessary to do so, and it can be controversial for no reason. I'm not even trying to be controversial, so I don't see why that would help. Knowing good and evil, I could go into the depth on what that means. Here'd be an interesting one, talking about the serpent in Eden, and Ezekiel 28, and Isaiah 14. And again, Mike Kaiser's contention is that it doesn't mean serpent, and so that's something I could go into. We've got Sons of God, Genesis 6 rebellion, and the reference to 2 Peter and Jude. I'm going to have to definitely include both of those verses, I think. I've also got Babel, and that's going to be the guts of what I'm talking about, and its relation to Deuteronomy 32. So all those are going to be in there. And you can see I've got my framework here. Genesis 3, Genesis 6, Genesis 11, Deuteronomy 32. Talking about each of those. And Deuteronomy 32 is really what's going to give us the framework that we need to work in. So, let's talk about, well, let's get my introduction going, I think. I'm going to start with Genesis 11, but I need to do a summary, essentially, of last week. I need to summarize last week's, and that's going to allow me to get a good idea, a good framework for where I need to go this week. So, let's just look at that. I'm going to skip this song. Too many words. And, let's see. So, what are some things I talked about last week? First, I talked about how the physical realm and the spiritual realm are united, right? I talked about how the physical realm and spiritual realm are united, and for that, I went to Genesis 1, where it says, "Let us make man in our image." So let's check that out. Turn down the music just a tad. Feels good. So let's see. Let us make mankind. So Genesis 1:26, I think this would be part of my reference. Genesis 1:26. So I'll read Genesis 11, 1 through 9, then I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to briefly review. So I'm going to talk about how last time we talked about how God has a divine counsel, and the way He works is through using His creatures. What would be the best verse to reference the counsel? I'll use the verse from last time. 1 Kings 22, 19 to 23. 1 Kings 22, 19 to 23. first I'm just going to say the words. Council. Spiritual beings. Council. I'll tell you what, ambient doesn't feel very ambient. There's some words I feel like they're jamming a little bit. Not that I'm against it. Yeah, so spiritual beings in the council. I'll talk about 1 Kings 22, 19 to 23. I'll talk about how God works in that situation. And then I'm going to talk about on earth as it is in heaven, which was my Matthew 6, 9 to 10. Matthew 6, 9 to 10. Matthew 6, 9 to 10. So spiritual beings, God has a council, he works in the spiritual realm, he's seeking to accomplish things in the spiritual realm, and we looked at 1 Kings 22. In 1 Kings 22, God wants Ahab to go up against Ramoth Gilead to seek to fight them in battle, and he wants them to fail, and he wants Ahab to die in battle, and that is what he's doing. And so he uses, in the spiritual realm, he uses creatures to accomplish his purposes. In the spiritual realm, he uses creatures to accomplish his purposes. Well, we also pray in Matthew 6, 9 to 10, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That's something we pray about. And so, what does it mean on earth as it is in heaven? Well, when we're praying that, we're asking that God's kingdom would come. And his kingdom, how it works in the spiritual realm, he has these councils, they accomplish his purposes. So too, it should be that way in the physical realm. And so there's this unity between what they're doing in the spiritual realm and what we are doing. Or should be doing. So I'm going to put that down. See, God had a plan when he created. And he created with the counsel of the other spiritual creatures. Let us make man in our image. And the reason I want to bring this up again is because there's going to be in Babel, let us go down and confuse their languages. He continues to use that same kind of methodology, and God continues to function using his spiritual creatures. Throw a let us in there. But there was a fall. That was the plan, but as we all know, there was a fall. Which leads me to today's question. If the spiritual realm and physical realm are linked, how does the fall affect each? That's what I want to figure out. If the spiritual realm and physical realm are linked, how does the fall affect each? What's the purpose and plan? What's the point? All those things. Boom. I like that intro. It's not your typical intro, but this isn't your typical study either. And so I think it's appropriate to kind of go this direction with the intro a little bit. I think it'll be fine. People will follow it. It'll give people a brief overview since all of these concepts are tied together. If they weren't there last week, give them a brief overview. And if they were, it'll just give them a reminder of what we had talked about. Alright. So now we're getting into the fall in Genesis 3. And one of the main things I want to teach at this point is that there was not a pre-fall fall of spiritual beings, right? Satan fell in the garden. That was his fall. That's where he messed up. He messed up because he fell in the garden. It's not as though he fell before that and then went off and did his own thing. And so that's one aspect that I want to focus on. One aspect that I think is essential for our understanding. My bad, I'm just checking my settings over here. Good. So, let's go back to our books. And we're looking at the fall. Trouble in Paradise. Divine Rebellions. Trouble in Paradise. Revelation 12:9. He is the devil. So let's check that out. Because we want to link these together for people. That great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan. So, Revelation 12:9. That's going to be important. And it's a short enough verse, I don't want people to turn there. Because in this whole study I've been having people turn everywhere. So, I just need the reference. Can I insert Bible references straight from here? Insert passage. Rev 12:9. Let's see how that goes. That's not the formatting I would like. But, let's see if I can make it work for me. Yeah, not ideal. Not what I want. I'm sure I can mess with that in the future and get it to do what I want it to do. But it's easier for me to just do this. Alright. What else is going on in Genesis 3? Let's see. Let's see what Kaiser says. I don't need to go into this. I believe this and I agree with him, but I don't need to go into the detail. So what verses in Genesis 3 do I want to cover? Let's figure that out first. Sorry about that, just wanted to clear my throat. Genesis 3, 1-5, maybe? And then later I can go down and I can cover the curses. Now, should I go into the Nakash stuff? Let's look at what he says. He essentially tries to say that it's not a serpent. It has no serpentness to it. Yeah, I don't think so. I think the fact that Revelation identifies the serpent with Satan is good. Maybe I can mention in passing, like, don't be caught off guard by the fact that the Bible describes it as a serpent. There is some question as to whether or not that's the right translation. And even if it is, they're clearly not confused. Like Adam and Eve, whatever is going on, this is not confusing to Adam and Eve. They're like, yeah, this makes sense. We talked to this creature. So I'm just going to say, I will mention it. And I'm just going to say, hey, there's a potential translation issue here where it may not be serpent, but instead be, and I just want to make sure I get it right. Unseen realm. Grid. Implications. Eden. Oh my God, is perfect. Yeah, we know all that. Where is the serpent? Satan, blah blah blah. Place of the serpent. I guess serpent discussion is further. Here we go. One of us? I didn't notice that. Be like God? Oh, he says one of us because he's thinking lesser Elohim. Yeah, that's pushing a little bit. I told people last week that Elohim can mean spirit creature, right? But I'm not going to push it so far. I can't get into these super interpretive Hebrew traps, right? It's not going to be helpful for people. So I want to do something that's helpful for people. Where's more serpent stuff? Here we go. Probably just need to look up Nakash. Here. Oh, you find your answer immediately. Here we go. Right here. Nokesh. Nakash or Nokesh. Diviner. He does this long Hebrew thing to basically say he's the shining one. So I might mention shining one. But other than that, I'm not going to go into more detail here. I don't need that arrow. Okay, so we got Genesis 3, 1-5. Hey guys, just so you know, the serpent, this isn't a weird thing for them. It seems weird to us, but we get the identity of the serpent. This isn't necessarily a literal snake. We get the identity of the serpent in Revelation 12:9, so we don't have to get bent out of shape over it or nothing. So people, I think, will be fine with that. Ooh, I should not have copied that arrow. That's a gross arrow. And then... see, now this is ambient. I'm liking this. And then... Revelation 12:9, serpent. And what does the serpent do? The serpent deceives them. Pre-fall rebellion. And I can just tell people we generally get this idea from Genesis or from Revelation, and Revelation isn't the best book, I think, to chronologically try and sort these things out. I think what's much more likely is that this is Satan's fall, the same as man's fall. It's Satan's fall as well. They're both happening at the same time. So put that down. Revelation. And it's much more likely this is Satan's fall. Okay. Are there any other truths I need to teach on this? Snake, not really a snake. Serpent. Ezekiel 28. Yeah. Knowing good and evil. I don't need to go into that in detail. Yeah. So this talks about the first fall, right? It talks about what's going on, why there's a fall, all of those things. And so now I can go to their fall. We all know their fall, but I can just read it. (3:14) to 19. Now, should I go into why he did this? I may not have time. I really want to get to Genesis 6, and I also want to get to Genesis 11. If I spend way too much time on Genesis 3, I'm not going to leave myself time to talk about the real meat of the subject. So I need to be careful about that. It may still be appropriate to go into a little more depth on Satan's fall and how it relates to our fall, but we just need to be careful that we're not spending too much time on that. Let's go look. Yeah, some people ask questions like, why did he do this? Why did he fall? You know, all that type of stuff, and I just don't think it's helpful. You know, there's that question of pride. Isaiah 14, Ezekiel 28. Let's just look at Isaiah 14, Ezekiel 28. Right here. And I agree with Heiser. This has traditionally been recognized as a text talking about Satan, and then I've heard people say this has nothing to do with Satan, it has to do with the king of Tyre. The language is very lofty for the king of Tyre, so I do think it's kind of referencing Satan. How you have fallen, morning star, son of the dawn, you've been cast down to earth, you who once laid low the nations, you said in your heart, I will send to the heavens, I will raise my throne above the stars of heaven, I will sit enthroned in the mount of the assembly. So why did he do this? He got proud. He thought he could do as good a job. God lets his spiritual creatures make decisions, and sometimes they make bad ones. And that's what happened here. So, I will talk about that. Why? Proud. And there, I can get some application out of that too, which will be nice. Because up until now, I've just been going through kind of some spiritual information. So let's go. Fear, pride. A creature as mighty and powerful as Satan, his pride led him astray. So we ought to fear pride in our lives. Now, what was the result? Is now the two offsprings. Result. Two offsprings. And what verse is that in? .315, classic. This is important because the two offsprings set the standard for what it means to be, in a sense, a child of God versus a child of the devil. And it has to do with whose plan are you going to follow. That's all it really has to do with. Whose plan are you going to follow? If you want to follow God's plan, that makes you a child of His. If you don't want to follow God's plan, then you're a child of Satan's. That's all there is to it. The serpent's offspring is anyone who stands against God's plan just as he did. I need to mention Mike Heiser up here. It's a separate sermon, and I want to get in there. You know, I don't want this to be plagiarism. I don't want people to think I'm trying to steal his ideas. Here's what I'll do, actually. I won't put it right there. I don't know where I'll put it, but I'm going to put it up here and bold it. That'll be good enough, I think. So there's 2 offspring. Genesis 3:15 says it. And how are you each type of offspring? Well, yeah. Oh, that's not right. Let me grab this. The serpent's offspring is anyone who stands against God's plan, just as he did. This is why Jesus tells Peter, "Get behind me, Satan," because it's against God's plan to not go to the cross. And this is why Jesus says, "You are of your father, the devil." Both of those things are important. And so we need to make sure that we're on board with God's plan. That's the whole point. We don't want to be Satan's offspring. If we want to be sons of God, we need to be on board with God's plan. That's what separates the two. So let's look up both of those verses real quick. Get behind me, Satan. Matthew 16:23. And then you are of your father, the devil. John 8:44. Perfect. All right. So both of these are relevant verses. Two offsprings, Genesis 3:15. The offspring of man are those born to Eve, but the offspring of Satan is anyone who stands against God's plan, just as he did. Then we can reference that. That's not what I want to do. There we go. And then we've got another application. Know God's plan and follow it. Boom. Okay, I think this covers the fall proper. Now the question is, what's going on in Genesis 6? In Genesis 6, we have the angels, these spiritual beings, angels, whatever you want to call them, taking into their own hands God's purpose and plan to unite the spiritual realm and the physical realm. And so,
you can be the stars, you can be the stars for me. Show me that you love me, like the sky so I can see.
So I'm going to talk about there's an element of unity in the spiritual and physical realms. God is joining the two together, and he's utilizing both of them to accomplish his purposes. So then we get this weird thing in Genesis 6. What is going on in Genesis 6? Again, my contention is that the Bible means what it says at this point. And it clearly teaches about spiritual creatures joining in union with physical creatures. Now I'm going to need to talk about the fact that Matthew says that they will be like the angels in heaven. They'll be like the angels in heaven, neither married nor given in marriage.
Untouchable and shining far, you scatter like the galaxies. You call me up when it gets late again, like I'm
Matthew 22:30.
Oh, but it doesn't work that way. No matter what you say, I want you until the end. You can be the stars, you can be the stars for me. Show me that you love me, like the stars so I can see. You can be the stars, you can be the stars for me.
And here it says they don't, not that they can't. It says they don't have sex, not that they can't have sex. And that's a big, important distinction. So I'm going to try to emphasize that. And then I can go to Jude. This is what's being talked about in Jude and 2 Peter. 2 Peter 2, 1-10.
You can be the stars for me. Please state your name clearly into the
2 Peter 2, 4-10, probably.
My name is System 13
Peter 2, 4 to 10. And Jude. Jude's going to be the real kicker here. There it is, Jude 6 and 7. Jude 6 and 7. And this is why sexual sin is so important. And the important thing in Jude 6 and 7 is that phrase, in a similar way. In a similar way. And then, of course, I can just tell people verbally to check out 2 Peter 2, 4 to 10 if they're interested in some follow-up. Because they basically teach the same thing.
Here begins our story. When we're falling in our paths, of course, the time will slowly drift away. When it's over and we stand alone, the spirit softly.
And now I need to follow the hybrid creatures that were the result of this. The Rephaim, all that type of stuff. Yeah. Numbers 13:33, Deuteronomy 2:20 to 21, and 3:1 to 11. So let's go back to Gen 6. Genesis 6:4, Nephilim.
I can see the world so clearly. Didn't think that I'd uncover another world that's undiscovered. Now you wandered into this place. Realize it's my secret space. Paths across the time will slowly drift away. When it's time we stand alone, the spirit softly whisk away. Now the stories are spoken and there's nothing that we can do. Once in a lifetime, there's a chance that we change everything. Find the footsteps from the past, and I can't help but wonder if this world is
Unifying in their own way. That's what the angels were trying to do. And it goes back to, of their father the devil. They're trying to accomplish God's purposes via their own plan. God doesn't like that. Consistently, God doesn't like that.
You said I was the only one you've ever really wanted. Made me feel so special. You said you never let me go. I didn't know how those were.
I wonder if I can give an illustration here where somebody tries to essentially say the ends justifies the means.
Can't hold me hostage, not anymore. I'm breaking from your bondage. You can't hold me hostage, not
The ends justifies the means.
breaking from your bondage. I'm not your hostage. Breaking
I'm trying to think of a villain or somebody who does that. Surely there are some.
can't hold me hostage, not anymore. I'm breaking from your bondage. You can't hold me hostage.
And the answer is no, the means are important. They're important to God.
Every time I try to leave, you sink your hooks right into me. You'd rather see me bleed than be happy without you. But every threat that you make, you try and use to manipulate me to stay with you. I'm not your hostage. I'm breaking from you.
And now I can talk about the Nephilim and how they plague the entire Bible. God floods the earth. He's sorry he made mankind.
Hostage, not anymore. I'm breaking from your bondage.
Then they show up again in Numbers 13, 33. And these ones I want people to turn to so they can see them in their own Bible. There is a question of how. How on earth do they show up again if God flooded the earth and killed them all? Maybe some of them survived. Maybe this happened again. Let's see, where's this Deuteronomy? These are interesting passages. Next we turned and went up along the road toward Bashan, and Og, king of Bashan, with his whole army marched out to meet us in the battle at Edrei. The Lord said to me, "Do not be afraid of him, for I have delivered him into your hands, along with the whole army of his land. Do to him what you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon." So the Lord our God also gave into our hands Og, king of Bashan, and all his army. We struck them down, leaving no survivors. At one time we took all his cities. There was not one of the 60 cities that we did not take from them. The whole region of Argob, Og's kingdom in Bashan. All these cities were fortified with high walls, with gates and bars, and they were also great, many unwalled villages. We completely destroyed them as we had done with Sihon, king of Heshbon, destroying every city, men, women, children, but all livestock and the plunder of the cities we carried off for ourselves. So at that time we took from these two kings of the Amorites the territory east of the Jordan, from the Arnon Gorge as far as Mount Hermon. Hermon is called Sirion by the Sidonians, and Amorites called Sinir, We took all the towns on the plateau, Gilead, Bashan. Og, king of Bashan, was the last of the Rephites. So it's really just verse 11 that's interesting. Deuteronomy 2:20-21 and 3:11. So we've got both of these passages about other Nephilim. I can mention that God is spending a lot of the Old Testament time trying to take them out. Now I do need to mention where are these? How do these guys still exist? How? After flood, survived, or happened again. We need to be careful not to get too bent out of shape. Oh, we're just not told. We're not told how they survived or anything like that, if they did. But those are the assumptions we need to make, given that they still exist. Nephilim, Rephaim, that's why he's so big. I mean, this might be where, I'm pretty sure, but I'm just going to double check. I think this is where Goliath comes from. Goliath, near Nephilim in my entire collection. The result of the cohabitation, or other form of divine intervention per the ensuing discussion, is also something that causes hesitation. The information